Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. So, welcome back to the VMware VSphere learning series. So, in the last part, we have completed up to step number 197. Now, let's move on to the next step. Now, before going for the next step, let me explain you what we will do in this particular part. So, in this particular part, we will test our VMotion, live VMotion of our Windows 11 CL VM, HA functionality, high availability, and DRS enabling. Okay, so there are three major steps what we will be covering in this particular part. Okay, so next step is power off all three VMs through VMware Workstation. Okay, so first of all, we need to power off everything. Now there is a way of powering it off. Let's see. I will just give you idea how to power off everything step by step. Okay, so as of now everything is on. Okay, my all three, just a minute, let me just go through this. So you can see over here my all three VMs are on. Windows 2022 DC, then ESX host 01, and then ESX host 02. All three are on. Now inside those ESX host 01 there is a virtual machine of vCenter server, right? If you remember, that is also on. Inside ESX02 there is a virtual machine called Windows 11 VM, sorry, Windows 11 CL VM, right? So everything is on as of now. So let's off everything step by step. So first I will start from the lowest level. So first I will shut down my Windows 11 CL. Okay, okay, now let's verify whether this particular VM has been shut down or not. So we have already logged in with our vCenter server, right? So now Windows 11 CL is off. Okay, powered off. Okay, first VM is powered off. Now let's power off our VMware vCenter VM also. Okay, so what I'm doing is, first of all I have logged in with the vCenter server, so I will log out from here. Okay, then I will go to my VM console of my ESX01, login with that. Login with your root credentials, and now click on home, and this is the VM which we need to shut down. Okay, so we cannot directly shut down. We can practically, but it is not recommended because it may crash then. So click on that console, click on one more time or hit enter. Now I'm pressing F12 because you can see over here it is showing F12 to shut down or restart option. Okay, so I will press F12. It will ask me for my root password. I'll put in like this, enter, and now it will give me two options, F2 to shut down and F11 to restart. Of course, escape for cancel. So as of now I want to shut down my VM, so I will say F2. So we are shutting down our VMware vCenter server VM, F2, and then it will shut it down in a minute. Okay, now this is shut down. I'll close this. this VM is also shut down. Now I can shut down my ESX host also. So what I will do is, there is one option, simple option over here. I will click on host and I will click on shutdown. So you are shutting down the ESX host from your web console. This is one way of doing it. So I will say shutdown. Okay. So why we are doing this in a step-by-step mode? Because you need to make sure that your VM is shut down before your main ESX host you are shutting it down. Okay. So host is shutting down. So I will close this. I'll come back here and you can see over here this ESX host is shut down. Okay, let's go back to our ESX host 02. Now this also we need to shut down. So I will press F12 over here, enter the password, and then press F2 to shut down. And there is one option, forcefully terminate running VMs if any. But as of now there are no running VMs, we have already shut it down, right? So I will say F2. Now it is shutting down. So this host also you can shut down through your web console also, and from this option also, direct console, right? So now all these two ESX hosts have been shut down, and now last I'll shut down my DC system also. So I will say shut down. It will take one more minute to shut it down. Yes, so now all the 3 VMs and 2 more nested VMs, that means all 5 systems have been shut down. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. So next step is through VMware Workstation main console, edit, click on edit, click on virtual network adapter and change settings and add network. We need to add one more network called VMnet 3 and we need to choose it as a host only. So I think I have already added it, but let's verify. So I will click on edit on my main VMware Workstation console. I will click on edit. I'll click on virtual network adapter and you can see VMnet 3 is already added. Okay, if I want to change setting or if I want to delete it, I will simply click on change settings. Okay, so now you can see the host only one. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. So the next step is configure the subnet IP as 192.168.10.0 and then subnet mask is 24-bit 255.255.255.0 and deselect the DHCP service. Okay, so we need to configure these settings. I have already configured, but I will explain it to you. We need to first of all disable the DHCP service, because it will, if I am clicking this, it will start distributing the DHCP IP unnecessarily to the inside VMs. We don't want that. So I will select my DHCP service. First of all, deselect one. After deselecting DHCP service, I will give one subnet IP. If you remember, our primary VMnet 2 IP range is 192.168.1.x, means 1.0 and up to 1.254. But we don't want to use that particular network adapter as well as that range. We need to add one more range for our VMotion and HA functionalities. Okay, so I hope I'm clear with this, why we require this VMnet 3 to give a dedicated network adapter for our VMotion and HA functionalities. Okay, so I will add one more adapter over here, which I have already done, and I have given a different IP range 192.168.10.0. 10.x means 10.1 to 10.254. Okay, so this is also done. Okay, I'll cancel this. So next is assign the newly created VMnet 3 adapter to all 3 VMs. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go back here and I will go to the settings of each VM one by one. Okay, and then I will click on add. I will click on network adapter, finish. This is network adapter 3. I will say custom and I will choose VMnet 3 host only. Okay. So this is the first VM. Which VM? Win 2022 DC. We are adding our newly created VMnet 3. Okay. I will say okay over here. Right. And now I will do the same thing for rest of the two VMs. So I will say currently only one adapter. I will say add. I will say network adapter, finish. Then I will click on custom and I will click on VMnet 3 host only. Okay, don't get confused with your primary adapter and secondary adapter. Okay, now secondary adapter we are adding for our VMotion and HA functionalities. I hope I'm clear. I'm just repeating this again and again just to make you clear. Okay, so secondary adapter is added, VMnet adapter 2, and this will be your host only. I will say okay, and one more time the ESXO02, add network adapter, finish. This network adapter 2, choose it as host only. Okay, so we have added our VMnet 3 which we have just created to all the 3 VMs. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So this we have already done, right? All the 3 VMs we have added our VMnet 3. Next is power on the Windows 2022 DC VM and assign IP as 192.168.10.100/24 for newly created VMnet 3 virtual adapter. So I will start this DC system. It will take 1 minute or so. Okay, so let's take the remote control of our 2022 DC system. And now we need to give one additional IP to our newly created adapter. Okay, so you can see over here this is Ethernet 1 which we are already using for our primary connectivity. So if I'm going inside 192, sorry, not this one, this is for our vSAN. This is the one, right? This is our primary connectivity 1.100. This second one is for SAN, and third one is for our VMotion or HA. So I will deselect IP6, IP4, and I will give the IP 10.100, and then subnet mask it will automatically take. So we don't require any default gateway DNS as of now for this. So I will say okay. That is fine. So this is the first step what we have completed. Okay, let it take. Let's move on to the next step. So next step we need to power on our ESXO01 also and 02 also. Okay, now we'll close this and we will start our ESXO01 and 02 also, one by one. Okay, so our ESX01 is online now. I'm starting my ESX02 also. Okay, so our second ESX host is also ready. It's on. So I will move on to the next step. So next step is we need to log into ESX host 02 and directly through our web console with our root credentials. Okay, so what I will do is I will go back to my DC system and I will open the ESX host 02 login and log in with your root account. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. Next step is through main web console, go to networking tab and then physical NICs and verify that the second NIC which we have just created is showing as sideline figure. So I will click on the networking tab over here and you can see over here our second network. Sorry, not the port groups. On the physical NICs, our second network VMNIC1, okay, showing. Okay, VMNIC 0 is our primary connectivity and VMNIC 1 is our secondary, that is 192.168.10 dot range, right? So second VMNIC is also visible. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So next step is we need to create one extra virtual switch which will be mapped to our new network adapter. Okay, so through ESX02 main web console networking virtual switches, add standard virtual switch, name it as vSwitch1. So I will go to back to your network and click on virtual switches and click on add standard virtual switch. Okay, so I will make it as vSwitch 1. Let's see whether this name is correct. Yeah, that's fine, and keep the rest of the values as standard and click on add. Okay, so now this virtual switch is created and it is visible. So let's move on to the next step. So uplink VMNIC1 and add. This is what we have already done, right? So this one is already added. If you want to edit the setting, you can edit over here. Okay, so uplink 1 is already there, so everything is there, right? So I will say cancel over here. Now let me see whether we have, yes, uplink showing is 1. This is important. Okay, so let's go back to our PPT for the next step. Next step is through ESX02 main web console networking tab only, go to VMkernel NICs and add VMkernel NIC. So I will go back here, networking, VMkernel NICs and add VMkernel NIC. Okay. Next is configure the values as follows. So new port group is equal to VMotion group. You can give any name, but since we are using this port group or this network connectivity for VMotion, so I will say VMotion group. Okay. Next is virtual switch is equal to vSwitch1. So we are mapping this particular VMkernel NIC to our new virtual switch, which we have just created a couple of steps back. Okay. Next is IP4 settings. Choose it as static. So I will say static over here, and I will expand this. IP4 address will be 192.168.10.16. Okay. So I'm just putting it up like this: 192.168.10.16. Okay. And subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. Okay. Subnet mask. Okay. Services, we need to enable the service VMotion. Okay, so I'm scrolling it up over here, and there is a option called VMotion. So this service we need to enable because we want to use this network connectivity as a VMotion. Okay, and finally we need to click on create. Fine. So we have created one VMkernel NIC for our VMotion purpose, and before that we have added one network adapter and given it as a range of 192.168.10.x. I hope I am clear with all those steps. If not, you can reverse this video and see it again. Next is we need to repeat all those steps from 204 to 208 on ESX host 01 as well. Okay. So what I will do is I will go back here and I will log into my ESX host 01 also. And let's go back to our step number 204 so that we will not miss anything, right? So log into ESX host 02, but we are now logged into ESX host 01. Okay, now we need to go to networking physical analysis to verify that the second NIC is showing. So go back here. Remember this step we are now doing it ESX host 01. We'll click on home, click on networking, and click on physical analysis. So our VM NIC 1, that is our second network adapter, is showing. Okay, so this step is completed. Next is through ESX host 02, but now we are doing it on 01 through main console networking virtual switches. Add standard virtual switch name as vSwitch1. So I will go to networking. We are already there, virtual switches, and we need to add standard virtual switch and name it as virtual switch. Okay, so we have given the name as virtual switch 1. Okay, so I'll just put in as 01, but that's fine. And then uplink is already selected over here, and I will say add. Okay, so vSwitch 1 is created. Next is uplink, we have already selected and added also. So next is again through ESX host 01 only, because we are repeating these steps. Don't get confused. VMkernel NICs, add VMkernel NIC. So I'll say VMkernel NIC and add VMkernel NIC. Okay, and then we need to put the values as new port group is VMotion group. Then virtual switch is vSwitch 1. Don't forget to assign it, otherwise it will create conflict. IP4 will be static. If I'm expanding this, then IP4 address. Now since we are doing it on ESX402 for this PPT, but we are now repeating it on ESX401. So what could be the IP? 192.168.10.7, correct? And then my subnet mask will be same, 255, 255, 255, 0, right? Coming back here, and services we need to enable as VMotion. Okay, this one. And finally, we need to click on create. Okay, so we have completed 3 sub major parts. We have added one physical NIC, although it is a virtual NIC through VMware Workstation only, but don't get confused over here. We have added one more additional physical NIC in prospect of ESX host. So we have added one more NIC. We have given the range as 192.168.10 for that NIC. Then we have created our new virtual switch, and we have created our new VM kernel NIC and assigned that virtual switch to that VM kernel and given the same IP 192.168.10.7 and 192.168.10.16 to ESX401 and 02, so that we can use this dedicated network connectivity for our VMotion purpose. I hope I am clear. Okay, so in the next part we will see how to actually do a live VMotion for our Windows 11 CL VM. Okay, so we have completed our step 209, that is we have already repeated all the steps from 204 to 208 on ESX401 to create our new VMotion connectivity, VM kernel NIC and IP configuration. Hello, welcome back. So we have completed up to step number 209. Let's move on further. Now before moving on, let me explain you what we will do in this particular part. We will test our VMotion connectivity, network connectivity first from ESX host to ESX host 1 to ESX host 02 and vice versa. And secondly, we will do a live VMotion migration of our Windows 11 CL machine. Okay. So next step is through your Windows 2022 DC system, open PuTTY and connect to SSH session of ESX host 01. Okay, so I will go back here. I'll go back to my DC system. Now let's close this because this is logged out due to inactivity, and now we will open our PuTTY session, and then I will put the ESX host 1.7, enter. Let's see why it is not showing. So this is my DC system. I'm opening my PuTTY session. I'm just entering the ESX host 01 IP. Okay. I will say accept, and I will log in with my root account. Okay, so we have logged in with our root account through putty session. Okay, so let's move on to our next step. So this step we have already completed. We have connected to our SSH session and logged in with our root account. So next step is we need to test our VMotion network connectivity between ESX host 01 to ESX host 02 with following command. Now which command we need to enter? VMkPing and then IP of ESX host 02. Okay, so I will come back here. Now remember we have logged in with our ESX host 01. So we need to test the connectivity to ESX host 01 to 02. So ESX host 02's IP is 192.168.10.16. That is our second IP, right? So what I am doing is VMk ping, then 192.168.10.16. Okay, you can see over here it is pinging. Okay, so our connectivity between ESX host 01 to ESX host 02 for our new VM kernel switch or VMotion switch is working. I hope I'm clear with this step. Okay, I will say exit over here. So next step is exit SSH session from ESX host 01 that we have already done. Okay, next is now we need to repeat the same step from ESX host 02 to 01, right, to test the VMotion network connectivity between ESX host 02 to 01 with following command. So VMK ping 192.168.10.7. Okay, so I will come back here, come back to my DC. One more time I will open putty session. This time I will take a session SSH session to my ESX host 02, that is 1.16. Enter, accept, put your root credentials, and now I'll first clear the screen, and now I am VMK ping. I'm entering this command to test my network connectivity. VMK ping and then 192.168.10.7, that is ESX host 01. Enter, and you can see it is pinging. So this step is, although it is a minor step, but it is still important to test that our VMotion network connectivity is working fine before trying the actual VMotion. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. Now we will be doing the actual VMotion migration. Okay, so through vCenter server console VMs, select Windows 11 23H2 x64 VM and click migrate. So we'll come back here. And now I'll close this first, and now through my web browser I will first log into my vCenter server. Okay, so if you remember, we have shut down all the VMs and all. So first I need to power this up. I will say power on. By the time it is powering on, I will just go to my PPT one more time. And now once this is powered on, we need to, through vCenter server, we need to right click on that particular VM, Win11 VM, and click migrate. Okay, so let it boot. It will take 2 minutes. So now our Windows 11 VM is up. Let me take the RDP of this Windows 11 so that we can access it on live instance, and I want to migrate it as it is already running. Okay, so let me take the RDP. Okay, so we have taken the RDP of our Windows 11 CL VM. Okay, by the time it is just loading its desktop, let's move on to our PPT. So we need to now lively migrate this particular Windows 11 CL system from one host to another host. That means currently it is hosted on ESX host 02. We need to migrate to ESX host 01 without making it off, or as it is lively running. Okay, so let's go back. Now you can see over here, what I will do is I will open my command prompt just to show you, and then I will ping my DC system continuously. Okay, let it run in a continuous mode. Okay, and now we'll go back to our vCenter server and we will execute this step. Okay, so I will right click on this VM and I will say migrate. Okay, so this option is there. Okay, so let's go step by step. So next is on select migration type window, select change compute resource only and click next. Okay, so now there are 4 options available. I will explain these options to you, and we will choose only first one, but I will explain these options to you. So first is change the compute resource only. What does this mean? That means we are changing our ESX host. Currently our Windows 11 CL machine is hosted on ESX host 02. Let me cancel this and show you where it is exactly hosted. Okay, so currently it is hosted on my ESX host 02, right? So you can see over here ESX host 02, and if I'm expanding it, Windows 11 CL, right? So currently it is hosted on ESX host 02. Okay, so I will one more time go to that option, migrate. So change compute resource only means we are changing it from ESX host 02 to ESX host 01. Second is change storage only. If you are having multiple storages, then you can change the storage location, but the ESX host will remain same. Okay, next one is change both compute resource and storage. That means you are changing ESX host as well as another storage. And next is crossover vCenter server. So it migrates virtual server to vCenter server not linked to the current domain. That means some other vCenter server which is connected by network in enterprises kind of a setup, but it is not with your current domain. Okay, so as of now we are only changing ESX host for this Windows 11 CL machine. So change compute resource only. I will say next. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is on select a compute resource window, select ESX host 01 as host and click next. Okay, so compute resource means your ESX host. Currently it is running on ESX host 02 as I shown. I will select ESX host 01, compatibility check, it has been succeeded. I will say next. Next is on select networks window, verify VM network and click next. Okay, so as of now we are having only one VM network, default VM network. If you are having multiple VM network, you need to choose the appropriate one before the VMotion. So I will not change anything over here. I will say next. So next is we need to select the VMotion priority. So select VMotion priority. So currently I'm selecting schedule VMotion with high priority option and click next, so that it will immediately start VMotioning. Okay, this one, and I will say next. So what is the difference before clicking next? What is the difference? If you are selecting high priority option, VMotion receives higher CPU scheduling preference relative to normal priority migrations. VMotion might complete more quickly, and the normal VMotion means VMotion receives lower CPU scheduling preference relative to high priority migrations. You can extend VMotion duration. Okay, so as of now I am choosing high priority. I will say next, and on ready to complete window, click finish. Okay, now I will click finish over here, and quickly I will go to my VM, that we have already taken this particular remote session, right? Just to see whether that VM is getting off or whether it is giving any performance glitch or something like that. Okay, so now I will say finish. Quickly go here, see one blink and our VM is still running. Okay, so nothing much, just 1 second or half a second blink and it is again back to operational mode. Okay, so this is live VMotion. Now let's see what could be our next step. So next step is verify that the Windows 11CL VM has been VMotion, that is moved from ESX host 02 to ESX host 01. Okay, so let's now go back to our vCenter server. And you can see over here, if I'm refreshing, there is no VM in ESX host 02. If I'm clicking over here and showing, now currently 2 VMs are showing on ESX host 01, right? So I hope I'm clear with this VMotion step. So this way we can actually VMotion our Windows or any particular VM in a live mode, that is on a manual way. You can set your preferences or set your rules to do the VMotion in a more automated way also. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm again one more time moving it back to my normal ESX host, just to make sure that this ESX host is not overloaded. Okay, so what I will do is I will again go back here. I will say migrate, again change compute resource only, next. Now I will choose ESX host 02, next, then compatibility check succeeded, next, schedule VMotion with high priority, next. So it will be getting migrated to ESX host 02 host. And just before hitting the finish, I will just minimize this, finish and come back here. See, one blink, just a normal blink, and now it is back to operational. Okay, you can see over here this is 4 milliseconds. That is because it was VMotioning our VM. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this completes our VMotion activity for Windows 11 CL VM.